Get more on this from Omar Samad, who is the former Afghan ambassador to Canada, France, and Belgium. He joins us now from Fairfax, Virginia. Omar, really great to have you with us. Given the turmoil that we have seen, not just in Kabul, but in some of the attacks that are happening on Afghan security forces, Daesh claimed responsibility for several explosions that took place during Ashraf Ghani's inauguration. Is it a good idea for the U.S. to continue on this path of withdrawing its forces given the instability?
Well, that decision has already been made. We have crossed the bridge at this point, unless something dramatic or drastic or exceptional happens. I think that the American withdrawal timetable is now on. As you mentioned, within the first 135 days, it has to be brought down to about 8,600 or so. And thereafter, depending on conditions on the ground and how things are going with Afghan politics and intra-Afghan talks about a political settlement and a resolution of the problem, then the Americans will decide on what to do next. But their plan is to be out within 14 months. Now, a lot is obviously depending on the war between the Taliban and Afghan forces from here on, the prospects for intra-Afghan talks, the prospects for the release of prisoners, confidence-building measures, and many other things. It's not an easy road ahead.
So presumably this all comes with what would be a power sharing agreement between the Afghan government and the Taliban. And you look at a day like today where you have rival leaders being sworn in at the same time. You have Ashraf Ghani's inauguration and separately his rival Abdullah having his own inauguration. What are the prospects for a power sharing agreement between the Afghan government and the Taliban when the Afghan government can't even decide who its leader is?
So right now you have basically two administrations in Afghanistan. As you said, Ghani on one side, who has the backing of some groups and part of the establishment, and then Abdullah on the other side. And then you have the Taliban, who are also controlling parts of Afghanistan. So it's three different spheres of influence and power in Afghanistan at this point. What first needs to happen is in Kabul to see whether Ghani and Abdullah from here on can strike a deal and not only come to terms themselves, but also maybe bring a broader array of Afghan political and social leaders to form maybe a broader administration, which would then engage in talks with the Taliban. And that is the sort of the challenge right now, knowing that Ghani thinks that he is the winner and he has to call the shots. Abdullah thinks that he has a say in all of this. And then there are others like former President Karzai and many others who think that they also have to be part of this. And Abdullah is saying, I agree that we should have a broad-based approach. And the Taliban also want to see a broad-based approach. So the next few days, we'll see what happens in Kabul.
What are the chances, Omar, of that happening?
It all depends on political will. It all depends on taking the country's best interests at heart and into account. It all depends on consensus building and realizing that a lot is at stake. And at the end of the day, it all depends on whether you think that it's about your power base or it's about the country ending 40 years of war and 20 years of the American presence and striking the best deal possible with the Taliban. And I think that when you go and talk to the Taliban, you have to have a strong hand. You have to be united. You have to have a strong agenda and be able to defend the rights of all those Afghans who believe in certain values. And in order to do so, you have to, first of all, have political unity.
All right. Omar Samad, really appreciate your analysis. Thanks for being with us.